This week, I take a look at the AVN halfway house. If I have to say to place like this after jail, then lock me up. Hi, I'm Tom, and this is Adult Game Reviews. This week, I take a look at the AVN halfway house by AZ. It's been 1 million years since the last update.
Has it really been 10 years?
But episode 10 was just released this past weekend. It's been over a year since episode 9 was released, so it's good to see halfway house still being worked on. Also, check out my Patreon. At the $5 range, you can see my uncensored reviews with more perks as you get to higher tiers. You can check that out at patreon.com/Adult Game Review. Okay. Halfway House is about a 19-year-old guy who was released from juvenile detention or kid prison for a violent offense when he was younger. As part of your release program, you're sent to a halfway house by your parole officer. There are 3 other tenants that live there. You have Emily, the cute but easily angered redhead. You have Ashley, the tattooed blue-haired ex-call girl with a stern exterior. You have Luis. He is massive, but almost like an older brother. Lastly, you have Samantha, the matron of the house that keeps it tight. Okay. Let's get in the review. Starting with the good. The renders were above average. They aren't to fresh women or become rockstar levels, but they look good. The bodies and the faces could also look pretty beautiful. Solidly above average. While the AVN renders looked good, the true strength of Halfway House are the people. You truly feel like you're part of a family. This was the most engaging aspect. You are accepted pretty much immediately. I might be a weirdo, but there are a few games that just give me the warm and fuzzies. Games like Eternum, being a dick depending on the path, Leap of Faith, and interestingly, Hush Hush. These games just made me feel good. When I feel like this, I tend to take notice because this is one of the main reasons why I love AVNs, is to truly become engaged in the character stories. In Halfway House, the story isn't anything really complicated. You just follow the main character's life and follow the lives of the people around you. You are pulled into certain events that bring you closer to everyone. That is, if you make the right choices. My first playthrough, I was just kind of answering questions as I went along. I chose Emily to pursue, and when I got to chapter 9, I didn't have enough relationship points with Emily, and I started getting shut down from certain scenes. So I went all the way back and played through again, paying close attention to the decisions I made. You have 2 paths you can take with each character. You have friend points and corruption points. Very basically, friend points are more relationship building and corruption points are more to get to the loot content. So an effective system that gives a little bit more weight to the choices you're given. Everyone in the house is just a good person, and many outside the house are good people as well, even your lumpy parole officer. You do feel like you're building the relationships, even if it can be hard to always see the progress. And each character has some depth to them. You don't see growth in every character, but you do see some with Ashley and Emily, which I really appreciate. Finally, in chapter 10, you truly feel like you're making some progress with some of the possible relationships. However, I'm unsure if there is a scene with Ashley because I ran out of time with my playthroughs. I have 3 current paths that I was able to play with this review. I have 1 path with Emily, 1 with Samantha, and 1 where I stayed at the nightclub, which is fun. You see a little action with a street fight, so that broke up the monotony a little bit. On top of all that, the loot content was pretty good. As I said, the renders and bodies were above average, so was the loot content. Okay, let's get into the bad. But first, please like the video if you liked it and subscribe if you aren't. My goal is to get the channel growing enough to get monetized, and hopefully with the Patreon and this channel, I can start working my full-time job less and put out more content. So thanks for all the support. Okay, back to the bad. One of the first encounters you have in the game is really serious. Outside of the decisions not really mattering much, you spend a lot of the time in the following chapter just laid out. There were a couple of times where it felt like not a lot happens. Some chunks of time could drag. So if you really don't like slow starts or building relationships slowly, then the friend path will drag for you specifically, but both paths can feel like this at times. I would also be even more critical of this if I was playing update to update. Why? Because the development is slow. There's maybe 1 update per year, and there's always the discussion about if this AVN is abandoned. So yeah, I could see how this could turn off a lot of people. Also, chapter 10 did feel a little short. You get scenes with everyone that I was pursuing, but I don't know, I was expecting a little more after a year. I did enjoy what we got though, even if it didn't feel like the overall story progressed much. As far as the loot content, it takes a while to get to any meaningful loot content, and I would say that Halfway House is on the lower end of the quantity of adult content. You do have options to engage in a few interactions here and there, but it does take time to get to anything meaningful. Also, the music was fine. There were some basic sound effects, it set the tone okay, but it did tend to be a bit repetitive. It wasn't nearly as repetitive as Become a Rockstar, but it was noticeable. So maybe this is kind of more neutral than bad, but it was close. Okay, on to the weird. The MC is charming and witty, but there were a few times where he started shifting into annoying. I really liked the main character, but even I thought there were times where he needed to
stop talking, George. You stop talking.
Overall, I loved Halfway House. I really enjoyed the characters, even when I felt like the story could drag a bit. Chapter 10 was no different. What we got was pretty good. I just wish there was more after such a long wait. So if you've never jumped into Halfway House before, I enjoyed what is currently available. If you have played it, you may want to wait for more content because each update can be pretty short. Have you played Halfway House? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you haven't seen part 1 of 5 of the best Honey Select games out there, you can check it out right here. Thanks again. Until next time.